Before we start reviewing some exercises in Chapter 6, I'd like to go over revenue recognition. And probably from your financial accounting course, you remember hearing or may have been introduced to the 5 steps to revenue recognition. And prior to establishment of the 5 steps of revenue recognition, revenue was recognized when the goods or services were delivered and the collectability of the asset was ensured. And now they have expanded that to how much is recognized and when the revenue is recognized. And it all is based on, are you selling a single item or a multiple item? And first you have to identify the contract from both the seller and buyer's perspective. What does the seller have to provide the buyer, and when does the buyer become committed to pay for the goods or services received? And there are 2 types of performance obligations. One with just a single obligation, or there can be a multiple obligation. How do you determine the transaction price? Whether it's single or multiple, it's the amount the seller is entitled to receive from the customer. Now, if it's just a single performance obligation, there is no need to allocate the price. However, if multiple obligations in a contract exist, it has to be allocated based on a portion of each performance obligation. And as we review these problems, you'll see how that allocation process works. And when is the revenue recognized? Under a single obligation, it's recognized at a point in time, such as when the goods or services are received, or over a period of time. And for multiple obligations, the question is at whatever time it is appropriate for the performance obligation of the revenue being recognized. In other words, when was the obligation performed so you could recognize that portion of the revenue? Now, when does recognition of revenue is recognized? When the goods or services are distinct. What does it mean for goods and services to be distinct? It has to be follow the 2 criteria below. Capable of being distinct. The customer can use the goods and services on their own or go purchase it somewhere else. And it has to be separately identifiable. The seller promises to provide the goods and services individually.